Hi, I'm Valerie Dawn. Electric Quilt 8 is the go-to quilt design software on the market. In this video, I'll show you these 3 electric quilt techniques to help unlock your quilting creativity. First, how to plan your quilt layout on the Quilt Worktable. Second, how to import images of your fabrics using the Image Worktable and use them in your custom quilt designs. And third, how to design quilt blocks on the Block Worktable and place them on your quilt layout. And stay to the end, I'll show you Electric Quilt's fabric estimate and also how to print your patterns. For this quilt, I've selected this collection of fabrics that I picked up from a local quilt store. It was pre-selected for me to perfectly match. These are 100% cottons, which by far are the best fabric to use for quilts. They are the nicest to work with, will last a very long time and feel beautiful. This is the anchor fabric, and each one of these shades matches a color in the anchor fabric. So this peach matches the peach in the roses. This green matches the green in the leaves. This lovely coral pink matches the center of the rose. And the neutral blends very nicely with the background of the anchor fabric. I wanted a couple of additional fabrics for this quilt. So I went to my stash and I found this lovely pink shade, which is a perfect match for the pink in the roses. And the other one I selected was this lovely soft neutral gray, which picks up on shades in all of the different fabrics. It's just a nice soft blend with the rest of the collection. So with these 7 fabrics, I am going to use Electric Quilt 8 to design this quilt. I'm using a Mac, but the Windows version looks the same. First of all, open Electric Quilt 8 and design a quilt from scratch right here. Electric Quilt opens to the new quilts window and defaults to a horizontal quilt. We're going to create a horizontal quilt today, and the first thing we're going to do is save this quilt. Go to the File menu, Save Project. I'm going to call this one Spring Roses Quilt. It's really important to make sure you save it. I have forgotten to save my quilts before. Close it, it can happen. You could lose your whole design. So when Electric Quilt opens, it is on the Quilt Worktable. I'll show you right here. There's 3 worktables, the Quilt Worktable, the Block Worktable, and the Image Worktable. We'll look at the Quilt Worktable first. We're going to create a horizontal quilt. You'll see right here, there's 5 tabs. Go to the Layout tab. And from here, you can tell it how many blocks you want. And we're going to do a 6 by 6. So it defaults to 4 and 4. Increase that to 6. And it will add them to the quilt layout for you. Finish size of the blocks. I'm going to check keep width and height equal. I'm going to make them 8 inches by 8 inches. I'm not going to add a sash. So you have 6 by 6. It's going to be a total of 36 blocks. That's our layout. It gives you the layout, the quilt, finished quilt size so far, which is 48 by 48. So this isn't going to be a large bed quilt. It's going to be a lap quilt. The next thing is we go to the Borders tab. It defaults to long horizontal. That just means that the border is a long strip of fabric and the top part is horizontal. You can tell it the width of this border. I'm going to put 3 borders on this. The inside one, I'm going to make 3/4 of an inch. These are locked. They all are 3/4 of an inch on this border. You can add more borders. You can delete a border and you can insert a border. When you click add, it adds the border to the outside. This one I'm going to make, let's see what 4 inches looks. Okay, so this will create a 4-inch border all the way around. And then I'm just going to add one more, which goes on the outside. I'm also going to make this 3/4 of an inch. That will be my finished binding when the quilt is completed. And we'll see that the quilt is now 59 by 59 inches. And then we're going to just take a look at the Design tab. Electric Quilt comes with lots of blocks in the library. I'm going to save this quilt. You see these two icons over here on the left. The one that looks like a book with a plus mark, that will add to the project sketchbook. So click that and the block is added to the sketchbook. If you want to see it in the sketchbook, it's this book with a little pair of glasses. So click it, this window opens, and you can see that there are quilts, blocks, fabrics, and some other things. If you click quilts, you'll see the quilt we just saved. It's just a layout. There's nothing on it yet. That was our first electric quilt technique, which was the quilt worktable. Next, we're going to go to the image worktable. You have a collection of fabrics you're going to use in your quilt. What we're going to do is use a scanner and scan those fabrics, and then we're going to import those images into Electric Quilt so that we can begin placing them on blocks and the quilt. This will work with any scanner. You just place your fabric on the flatbed. I like to use PNG. You can use PNG or JPEG as an output. Electric Quilt needs 75, that's dots per inch for JPEG, and 96, I believe, for PNG. The choices my scanner software gives me is 75, 100. So I'm going to use 100. Electric Quilt will reset that when I import this to Electric Quilt. I'll scan a size about 8 by 10, and it doesn't matter where you save it, just save it somewhere in your hard drive. If you look at this, can you see it looks like there's kind of wavy lines running through it. What you can do to fix that is rotate the fabric so that it's facing the other direction. And I'm going to click Overview again so it'll do another preview. And so I have turned it the other way around, and the lines, the wavy lines, are not as obvious. I'm just going to readjust that a little bit. I'm grabbing an 8 by 10. I don't really need that much. You can reduce that. I could go 6 by 8. And I'm going to resize this to 5 by 5 or crop it to 5 by 5 when I bring it into Electric Quilt. There's many scanner softwares out there, many printers. Refer to your instructions for your whatever scanner you're using. And then I'm going to click Scan, and that will save to my hard drive. It's going to open in Preview app in my Mac. Windows has similar software, and you can see I get a very realistic snapshot of my actual fabric. You have two alternatives. The one on the left I created by scanning it on my printer flatbed. And the one on the right, I took a snapshot with my smartphone. The one on the left is a little pinker than the one on the right. The actual fabric is somewhere kind of between the two of these. This is the Image Worktable. To get here, you select this icon right here. You will be at the Edit tab here, Image Edit, and click Import Image. Navigate to the directory location where you have saved your scans, and you see I have given them names to correspond to the colors of the fabric, just so it's easier to find them. And I will select one of them and open it. It gives me a message to say that Electric Quilt 8 modified the bits per pixel to display this image. I will also want to crop this because I'm looking for a 5 by 5 sample. Click Crop, Presets. I will go to 5 by 5 inches, and it shows me a crop window 5 by 5. I can move this around to whatever I want to capture here, and then apply crop. Once I do that, I can click here, Add as Fabric. I'm going to do one more. I will click Import Image again. I'm going to take the floral, and again I would like to crop it, and I'm going to use the 5 by 5 right here. I can move this around to capture whatever section of this scan I want to keep, and I kind of like how I have most of those two flowers and some nice green leaves. Apply crop, add as fabric. Now to find where they were saved, go to this, open the sketchbook, select fabrics. You will see here that Electric Quilt has a number of default fabrics, quite a few of them actually. The custom fabrics we just added are at the very end. Close the sketchbook, I'm going to show you as well how to import the photo that I took with my smartphone. Import the image. I've copied it into this directory and it's the pink photo. Click open. It brings it onto my worktable. It's much too dense. Remember, Electric Quilt wants 72 dots per inch, and so we go into resize image first. It's a little bit slow because it's processing a lot of data. My width is 42 inches by 56. It is resizing it to the 72 pixels per inch that it needs, but I'm going to take a smaller crop. I'm going to say 8, so that'll be about 8 by 10.5 approximately. And I will click OK, and it resized the image. Now it gives me a zoom hourglass here just for my convenience. Click and drag and it will make it larger. So now I have the right pixels per inch. First of all, we're going to crop it to the 5 by 5 size that we need and apply the crop. Now I'm still not that happy with this color. So I'm going to go up here to the color tab and click color. And this is going to allow me to adjust the coloring of this swatch. Let's pick the red, green, blue. It opens this window and it shows me before and an after, and it allows me to adjust the percentages of red, green, blue in this swatch. Let's leave it at about 16. Preview it. I like that much better. Now click Add to Sketchbook. Once I come back to Edit, I need to add as fabric. Let's look at that, and there it is at the end. Close that window. The next thing we're going to do is navigate to the Block Worktable. Remember, import all of your fabrics, then we're going to navigate to the Block Worktable, and we will use those scanned fabrics to place in the block that we're going to design. The next technique we're going to learn is how to design our block on the Block Worktable. We have a number of options here: pieced, applique, a combination of pieced and applique, and something called Create Serendipity. We're just going to stick with the pieced block today. Electric Quilt has an extensive library of blocks. You can always go in and start with one of them. I'd like to show you how to do this from scratch. Click the Easy Draw, and we have 5 tools here. Pick, Edit, Draw a Line, which is our default, Draw an Arc, and Place a Grid. Let's just go with the simple tools here and draw a line. Now remember or recall when we did our quilt layout design, we said our blocks would be 8 inches by 8 inches. Let's keep that here, 8 inches by 8 inches. That's the block width and height. And you'll see that it gives you rulers, horizontal and vertical. Now the next one is we will have snaps, and this is where your drawing the line is going to snap to. So if you have 16 horizontal and 16 vertical, that's twice as many as inches. So that means it will snap every half inches, which is fine for what we're going to do. And it also draws grid paper for you, which can be 16, and we'll keep it at the same as the snaps, 16 by 16. You want to be careful that the snaps and the graph paper cells are a multiplication of the number of inches. The block I'm going to draw is a combination of a modified log cabin and a portion of what's called a hunter star. Let's do the log cabin portion first. Since I have 8 inches, I'm going to divide this into 4. Each one of my blocks is going to be 2 inches wide. Let's just start drawing here. So click and hold and drag. Going to come over 2 inches here and draw the other one here. I'm going to start here and draw from here to here, and then I'm going to draw. So this is a portion of a log cabin. I'm going to make it just a little bit different though, because I want to have an interesting triangle, half square triangle on each corner. Go up to 2 inches here, place your pen right on that dot, drag it here so it's at a 45-degree angle. Do the same on this one. We go up here and I'm going to do the same half square triangle on these two blocks. And you can see it's still my basic log cabin pattern, but with these interesting half square triangles on the edges. Now this block here down at the bottom, I'm going to use to draw a portion of a hunter star. Now let me just show you that. So we come down here to the 2-inch mark. You can see this is a 4x4 block in here. Come halfway and draw another half square triangle here. That's 45-degree angle right there. And we're going to draw a line straight across. Another half square triangle right here. And then we'll draw a line straight down. And one more right here. Add it to the sketchbook. Come up here and click plus. Now let's say you drew one of these in a place you weren't happy with. You can click the pick tool, which just turns it into this little arrow. Let's say that one you put in the wrong place. You can highlight it and then just press clear or delete and it goes away. And you can then select your line again, draw it back in properly. To see it in the sketchbook, open the sketchbook, click blocks, and we'll see the block that we added right here. Take a look down at the bottom because this is important. Coloring 1 of 1. We only have the blank, uncolored version of this block in the sketchbook right now. Now we click the color tab. You'll see there's 2 options here, fabric tools and thread tools. We'll leave thread tools for another day. Fabric tools, we have the paintbrush, spray can. There's a number of other options here. Eyedropper will pick a color. We're going to start with paintbrush, and you can see we have the uncolored block on the table. You have to pull it all the way over to the end to find the fabrics that we added. These are my 7 fabrics. That one's hard to see, it's the white one. I'm going to begin coloring. My cream, my light color, is going to be these half square triangles. I'll fill them in first. You just take your paintbrush and click on the block. Oh, I didn't mean to do that one. I can click over it after. The ones that are white, you just click on them here. This is 1/4 of the hunter star. I'm going to use the coral pink on that. I'm going to make this one and this one coral pink. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these 4 colors. Let's start with the gray. And I'm going to use the gray as my longest piece. And I'm also going to color this other half of the hunter star in as gray. All right, now I'm just going to alternate these other colors. So I have one of each of the 4 colors in this block. I'll use my green here. And I'll put peach here. And I'll put pink here. What I do with this, now that I have it colored, again, I add it to the sketchbook. Let's look in the sketchbook. You see only coloring 1 of 1, so it added it to my sketchbook. Let's close that. I want to alternate these colors. The next alternative is I'm going to put the green here and the gray here. And I'm going to change this one to green. I'm going to swap the pink and the peach as well. Select the peach, color this one peach, add it to the sketchbook. Let's take a look in the sketchbook. Now, what's interesting is we still only have 1 block here. If you highlight it, you'll see it says coloring 2 of 2. Click that arrow and it shows me the first one I did. If I click again, I'll see coloring 0, which is the uncolored. Click the right one again and I'll see that was the first one. And there's the second one. That is makes it a little bit hard to find the blocks because you have to tab through each one of these colorings to find it. Close that window. Now, I have 2 more colorings I'd like to do. First one is I'm going to make this longest piece peach, and I'll put the pink here, and then I'm going to color this one gray and this one green. And finally, I'm going to make this side of the hunter star peach. Add it to the sketchbook, and let's take a look where it put it. It only has 2 spots for colorings, so it added another block. If I highlight this, you'll see there's only a coloring one of 1. 0 again is the blank one. All right, close that, and I have one more to color. I'm going to make this one pink, and this one peach, and that one green, and that one gray. And again, I'll make this half of the hunter star pink to match my longest strip of the log cabin. Add it to the sketchbook. Okay, and there it is now coloring 2 of 2. All right, so I have 2 colorings here and 2 colorings here, and we'll close that. Next step, we're going back to the quilt work table, and we're going to place these blocks on the quilt. We're back on the quilt work table. In a little bit, I'm going to show you how to print those block designs so that you have the pattern. You have a version of the pattern that you can follow. We are back to the quilt work table. To find it, you always go back to the sketchbook. Click quilts. It's the only one here. We'll close that. There's a number of tools here. We're not going to use very many of them today. We're just going to use the set block and the rotate block, and maybe just the erase block to learn how to use it. Just tab over to the far right to the end to find the blocks we just colored. When you highlight it, it's a little bit tricky to find them. See these little arrows? Forward and backward. So I've highlighted this one. I go back one, I find my first coloring. I go back again and I find my blank. That's a little bit hidden. That's a bit hard to use, but now that you know the trick of it, you won't have any trouble with it. Same with this one. This was our pink. Go back one, and that was our peach. So let's start with this one. I've got my set block tool selected. I've got my block selected. I'm going to place it in the position on the quilt where I want it to be. So I click once, and it goes in the bounds of that block. I'm going to just, I have a preconceived idea of how I want this to go. I'm just going to show you because I'll have the 4 blocks arranged in together, adjacent to each other, and then I'm going to rotate them to have the stars all pointing inward. First of all, though, I'm going to place the blocks. The next one I'm going to place is the pink one, and I'm going to put it in this position. I'm going to rotate this so that the hunter star points are together. You can only rotate to the right using this rotate tool. You don't have any option to rotate left. That's just a constraint within Electric Quilt. No problem. We just click once and it rotates right. Click again. Okay, so position each one of these so that the hunter star points are together. Let me see this one. I'm not sure if I want it here or in the other position. Let me test this. I'll place it here, and then I'm going to, remember I can only go right, so I have to click this 3 times. Okay, I don't like that because I didn't want the green together. So I'm going over to my erase tool, click on it, and it's gone. Go back to the set block. Let me try the green one in this position, and then rotate it so that I have my hunter star together. I will place that block in this position on each one of them. Go back to my rotate tool and turn them around properly so I'm starting to see my hunter star emerge. Click twice on each one of them, and all that's left remaining is to place that other block that has the pink. Okay, remember it was here, and I have to, oh, wrong way, find it. There it is. Okay, let's place it here and then rotate it to see how this works out. Let's go to the set block, set it in each one of these empty positions, and then take our rotate tool, and each one I have to click 3 times because I can't go to the left, so I have to go to the right 3 times. Now I have the center of my quilt painted with all my blocks set. I like the way it looks. All that's remaining is to color the borders. To do that, we're going to use the fabric tools. Now, before we do that, I recommend saving your work. Just place this, I know it's not completed, but place it in the sketchbook. Look in the sketchbook. There's the original one. Now, if you click over to the right, you'll see the second one. All right, we'll close that. To color the borders, use the fabric tools. So click on the fabric tools. We can keep the paintbrush, but we have to navigate all the way over to the right to find the ones that we scanned, find our fabrics. Now, if you click that once, it'll color that one strip. But I want to color all four the same. Hold down either the Control key on Windows or the Command key on Mac. Click again and it clicks all four at the same time. And I also want my outside border, binding the same. Click the floral, so hold down either Control or Command. Click in any one of them and it'll fill it in. And there it is. Remember to add it to the sketchbook. You can go back later to the sketchbook. There's 3 in here now. That was our original layout. The second one was half done. And here's our finished one. If I don't want to keep this, I can just focus on this one. Click delete. Delete this quilt. I'll say yes. And I just have this one now. Let's close that. And that's how we use Electric Quilt to plan our layout, design our block, and place our blocks. To print, the first thing you need to do is make sure your printer is set up. Come up here to the Electric Quilt 8 menu at the top. Click File and Print Setup right here. Select the appropriate printer. You may just have one. Select whether you want portrait or landscape. Scaling means you're going to print it at 100% scale. That's important to keep it 100% when you're printing the patterns because the pieces need to be the precise size in inches or centimeters that you have designed. So once you have that done, just click OK. Select the Print and Export tab and select Quilt. This print dialog opens. You can give it a name. I'm going to call it my Spring Roses Quilt. It can be an outline drawing or showing fabrics. I want the fabrics because I want to see the placement of the colors I put in here. I'm going to print the name. I'll print the overall size. I'll print the block outline, but I'm not going to print the patch outline because I want to see where the blocks are positioned. Click Previewed and you'll see an image of what's going to be printed. And you can see darker lines where the blocks are placed, which will help you after you get your blocks made, position them properly. And I'll close and then click Print. Now, word of caution. If you have an inkjet printer or maybe even a laser printer, I have an inkjet printer, the printer inks are unbelievably expensive. So be careful not to print too many of these because it will deplete your ink cartridges. Now let's go to print a block pattern. Open the sketchbook, blocks, select any of these and click Edit. Just take a look at the coloring, click Print, again select. You have a number of items to select. You can print just the block, you can print templates, foundation, or rotary cutting. I like to use rotary cutting when I do these type of quilts because they're all in strips and that's a very efficient way to cut, and we'll show you that in the next video. You could do templates. I'm going to show you both templates and rotary cutting. Foundation piecing we'll save for another video tutorial. So let's go to our templates. Print template dialog opens. It defaulted to the 8x8, which is good. Be very sure to make sure the width and height are correct. Tell it you want a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And yes, we're going to print the seam allowance. A print key block is just going to print this image on my pattern, which I do want that. I only want one copy. Again, I'm going to preview it. And this shows me what it is going to print. This is templates, and templates means that you would cut out each one of these templates and place it against the fabric to cut it out. I think this particular block pattern would be better with rotary cutting pattern. So let's see what the rotary cutting pattern looks like. So click rotary cutting. Again, you have the finished block size. You have to select, make sure that this one is 8 by 8. I have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I will print this key block. It allows me to pick the coloring I wanted. And again, we're going to preview. This does not give me templates to cut out. This gives me a legend, and it shows me how to cut strips. Let me just zoom in on this, and I'll select just these ones. These are cutting diagrams. It's telling me to cut a strip that's 2.5 inches wide, which is the same as a jelly roll. And for this position, for this piece number A, and we'll look up here, piece A is the long one right here. It's telling me to cut it 8 7/8 inch. And this will be a 45-degree angle. For the half square triangles, it's telling me that these are 2 7/8 by 2 7/8, and this is actually the triangle it's referring to. That includes seam allowances of a 1/4 inch. Both of them include seam allowances. It's telling me 2 patches like this, and 6 patches in my ivory color, and 2 patches in my pink. All right, I can close that, and I can print it. Close that window after you've printed it, and that's how we print the block patterns and the diagram of our quilt. Go back to the quilt work table, because the next thing we need to do is estimate how much fabric we need to make this finished quilt. You see right here, we will select yardage. Print yardage estimates. Most cotton fabrics are manufactured to be 40 to 42 usable inches wide. And we are also telling it that we want it to allow for a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to preview this. Let's zoom in on this and see what it's saying. So for each one, it's telling me the quantity of fabric I need to purchase. This is in yards. You can convert this to meters. Most of these I would simply buy 1 yard. And then you can simply print this so you can take it with you to your fabric store. I have one more thing I want to show you, because I have a version of the Spring Roses quilt that I designed on point. This is the first one. So you'll see it's very similar to the one we just designed that's horizontal, but the blocks are positioned diagonally across the quilt. If you look at the layout, you'll see that it is diagonal. I had to go through a number of iterations because I had already purchased this fabric and I had 1 meter cuts of each color. So I had to play with both the designs I liked with and the positioning where I would have enough fabric to complete my design. This was the first one I saved. I had many in between where I was playing with these different layouts. And this one was a favorite that I saved. And you'll notice that the Hunter Star blocks are 2 to an edge. Now the next one I saved was similar, but I had 1 Hunter Star block per edge and a piece of a Hunter Star in each corner and a center Hunter Star in the middle of the quilt, whereas the other one had 4 center stars. This is the horizontal. In the next video, I'm going to make this version of Spring Roses. I would really appreciate if you give me a like, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.